Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky and I'm joined as always by the man who has just spent this morning trying to fix his knot board. It's Greg. How are you today, Greg?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
How's your knot board?
It's looking good. Like a nice bit of attention to detail there. It's good. Things are okay. I think I told you earlier last week that my oldest daughter was going out on a date on Friday. I remember, I think I put it in the group.
You told me by text, yeah. You didn't mention it on the podcast, but yeah, you did tell me by text. Okay, we're going there, are we?
Well, I've kind of been through I kind of went through the gambit of emotions. I came home from work and my wife was like, I need to speak to you about something. So like I'm thinking like it's bad news. Do you know what I mean? Like someone like a loved one has expired or something like that. And I'm like, what is it? What's the matter? She said, a boy has asked Macy out on a date. And I was like, oh, all right, well, you know, it's going to happen eventually. Do you know what I mean? She's 15. And my wife was like, are you all right about it? And I was like, well, yeah, sure, I suppose so. You know what I mean? She goes out in groups with boys. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be that different, I'm thinking. But as the evening wore on, I started to become a bit uneasy about it. So it was supposed to be picking her up in a taxi on Friday night and taking her down to JBR in Dubai, Jumeirah Beach Road, to a mini golf place at 7 o'clock. So I said, look, you're not going down to JBR at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. Like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? Forget it. I said, you can go earlier. You can go at 5 if you want. So she was like, oh, right, okay. So she spoke to the boy and he booked it again for 5. And then the next day, I said to her, look, I don't think I want him picking you up. Why don't you get him to come here and I'll take you both over there? And she's like, oh no, come on, Dad. And I was like, no, I said I'll drop you off. I won't speak to him. Yeah, I'll speak to him obviously, but I won't like embarrass you or anything. But you know. I said, but I feel like I need to sort of eyeball him because he doesn't go to our school. She met him like down at the little local mall. She was hanging out down there. I said, so I need to get a look at him. Do you know what I mean? So she was like, oh, right. So then on the Friday morning, my wife said, look, why don't you just let the boy pick her up? And I was like, no, absolutely not. No, she was like, all right, whatever. And then I was taking Macy to school and I was like, all right, look, you know, just tell him he can come and pick you up if you still want to do that. It's fine.
Oh.
So then I got in on Friday. I got in a little bit early because I wanted to still have a look at this kid when he came to pick her up. And she's still in her school uniform. And I was like, wait, why not change from school? And she was like, oh, I can't be bothered. I said, you're not going to get ready for your date? And she was like, I don't want to go. And I was like trying to repress the smile in my voice. Really? Why not? And she was like, I just don't really want to go. I said, well, look, just tell him that we've said you've got to stay in and look after your sister because we're going out and you'll do it another time. And she was like, yeah, but I don't really want to go out with him at all. So like inwardly I'm punching the air. Outwardly I'm like, oh really? Well, how come? You know, tell me more about it. She said he's just I think he thinks that we're going out. You know, he's just a bit full on. So I said, well look, I tell you what, just tell him that your mum and dad have had a change of heart and said that we feel you're a bit too young to be going out and you're really sorry and maybe you'll see him like when there's a big gang of you or something down at the mall or whatever. So she did. So she messaged him on Snapchat. She said that the message was marked as read, but he didn't message her back. So then I was thinking, I feel a bit sorry for him now. Do you know what I mean? But sorry for the kid because I'm sure you as I have been like when we're especially that age, you know, you kind of meet like a girl who shows a bit of interest and you're like super excited and keen and you probably get a bit carried away with it and maybe sort of put them off a bit or whatever. And I thought, you know, I mean, I'm sure I know that I did that more time. I was doing that when I was fucking 25, let alone 15. You know what I mean? I was still doing that shit. But it got me thinking about, I thought I was going to ask you, can you remember the first sort of proper kind of date you ever went on and how old you were?
Oh God, I don't know if I can actually. Like first proper date.
There's been so many, you know.
There has been, to be fair. I don't know. I mean, I remember first couple of, you know, it would have been like 13, you know, going to parties. Because that was my thing. Like when I was at school, I hang out with older people. So when I was in like third year, I was hanging out with like all the sixth years and stuff. Like I don't know, it came about I think through being in school drama club. So I was going to parties like when I was 13, 14, like with everyone drinking and stuff. And we'd have a few beers and my mum would come and pick me up at like 10, 11 o'clock after I'd snogged a couple of girls. So I was living the dream at that time. First proper date. I don't know if I can really remember.
So this kind of first time you've felt like you've really done something a bit grown up. You know, maybe you've taken a girl to the pictures or for a bite to eat or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I think I maybe would have been about 16, I think, when the first kind of official date I had. Yeah, and I went to the cinema with a girl. That's the,
But do you remember what you saw?
One thing I remember. Would I have been 16 or 7? No, it would have been 16. We went to see A Life Less Ordinary with Ewan McGregor. Right. So I must have been 6. Yeah, I was definitely 16 at the time. Right. I think that was the first kind of like official date. Because every other girl I'd been with, it'd either been like parties or, I don't know, we hung out. Like there was always a party at someone's house at the weekend and we just would get together there. Like never really go on official dates, never go for like a walk around the park or something. That might have been it actually. Yeah. Probably, I think. Yeah, I think that probably rings a bell as first official date. What about yourself?
The first one I can sort of remember when I feel like I did something a bit more grown up was I was going out with a girl when I was 16 called Stacey Collingwood. And I absolutely, because I used to have long, luxurious hair when I was 16, Nikki. And some girls like that. And I was punching. Like massively punching, and I couldn't quite believe that because I didn't ask her. Like I'd heard down the grapevine that she was into old Greg Alas here. So I broke up with the girl that I was going out with at the time to go out with Stacey. And we went out together for maybe. I mean, it seemed like longer, but it was probably like maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe even 2 months. And the first sort of proper kind of date was I went to her house to meet her. She lived in a town called Fetterangus, which is sort of near Peterhead, and we got the bus into Peterhead to go Christmas shopping together.
Oh.
It was my suggestion, and we went.
Did you get to have a look at her baubles?
No, not once in all those months. We went to there used to be a sort of fish and chips sort of cafe on Chapel Street in Peterhead. I can't remember what it's called, but we went there and had some lunch, and I paid for lunch, which was fucking massive. And it was
big spender.
It was probably like less than a tenner, but in my mind, I was like fucking high roller. Oh, Stacey, put your purse away. I've got this. I'll pay for your chips. Oh, this is no. I insist. It's on me. And then
you want a smoked sausage as well later on, Stacey?
Yeah, get a milkshake, whatever you want. Yeah, just whatever you want. The sky's the limit. Get an oyster for pudding. And I think, and then maybe like a week later, she took me to one side in the playroom and told me I was chucked. And I had
in the playroom.
In the playground.
The playground.
I had to kind of pretend that it was fine, but it really wasn't. Do you know what I mean? She was like, "Oh, you're such a nice guy. I was really dreading telling you and all this." And I'm like, "Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Honestly, it's fine. Like, better go and find the boys. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it." And then maybe into the top.
By the way, you owe me three quid for that. Fish supper.
Thinking that's fucking 10 quid down the drain. So yeah.
Oh, terrible.
So yeah. That was my big news this week. But on that,
that is big news.
On that amazing segue, with hundreds of episodes in, should we see what's been going on in the news?
Well, it's your catchphrase, Greg. So yes, let's have a look at what's been going on for Scotland. What's been going on for Scotland? What's been going on in Scotland in the last couple of weeks?
Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, Greg, so in the wonderful week that Scotland beat Cyprus 3-0, and, we're on our way to the Euros, and we're playing England this week as well. I've got a genuine thought that we could probably beat them. What have you seen in the news in Scotland that has caught your eye?
Well, the news in Scotland over the last couple of weeks has been pretty dire, from school concrete issues and also, all kinds of fucking dreadful things. So my first story this week is actually one that it might not be. The headline is what makes this story. Right, that's all I'm going to say. So it comes from the Scottish Sun on the 31st of August, last week. The headline reads, Gran Theft Auto. Scots granny stole £1.5 million from a city scrap metal firm and spent it on holidays, caravans, and new cars. So this is an Aberdeen granny, Colleen Muirhead. She embezzled the money from an employer's business, which she also used to set up savings accounts for her grandchildren. She admitted to misappropriating, so this is to the penny, right? So £1,524,192.37 when she was employed at Panda Rosa Metals on Canal Street in Aberdeen between June 2015 and October 2021, when she appeared in the dock at the High Court in Edinburgh. The Colleen later admitted embezzling the money and told a colleague in a message, "Police have just raided!" ! So I will need a visitor in jail! ! Please don't think the worst of me. When her colleague replied that she was totally confused, Colleen told her, Don't be confused. I have taken the money. I'm so sorry. Advocate Deputy David Dixon said Panda Rosa Metals is described as a company engaged in ferrous and non-ferrous metal recycling that is owned and operated by the McAllister family. The prosecutors...
Oh, Jesus.
You know these...
Yeah, you don't want to mess with them. They're Wheel Kent folk in Aberdeen, if you know what I mean. You don't want to be messing with the McAllisters.
I was going to say at school one of them or something there for a minute. The prosecutor said the firm operated 2 sites in Aberdeen and Muirhead was based at its Canal Road operation. She began work with the firm as an administrative assistant in 2014. Mr Dixon said scrap metal was brought to the sites by firms and individuals where it was weighed and a ticket produced, which was then sent to staff who provided an advice note containing details of material, weight and price. Sellers then produced an invoice and on its receipt the firm would instruct the transfer of funds. Mr Dixon said the accused, together with 2 other administrative employees, were allocated specific client. They were each responsible for producing advice notes and dealing with the subsequent invoices. The prosecutor said during the course of the years following the accused's beginning employment with Panda Rosa, another employee who was responsible for instructing payments of the accused's wages became aware that Muirhead went on expensive holidays with her family, paid for a full table at a charity event, purchased alcohol for those attending the event, and bought new cars. The accused also told her that she had paid for her son's wedding, had purchased static caravans, and had set up ISAs for her grandchildren. Mr Dixon said that... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say she's planning ahead.
Yeah, no. Mr Dixon said a senior partner in the firm, Helen McAllister, reviewed company records and notified that funds were down. Others thought this was due to the COVID pandemic, but she was adamant that something wasn't right. She began looking for information on a customer named G. Anderson, who she noted was a significant customer during a review of the books. Mr Dixon said David McAllister, Senior, confirmed he was not a customer at the firm's Canal Road site, and office staff were instructed to look for paperwork in relation to an account in that name. They were unable to find any recent paperwork but found some advice notes and historical files. The advice notes and the reference number identify Muirhead as producing the documentation. Mr McAllister Jr. phoned Muirhead, who was on leave at the time, probably on a massively expensive holiday, for information on the G. Anderson files. She told him where they were and asked him if she was in trouble. Mr Dixon said on the evening of October the 6th in 2021, Muirhead sent a WhatsApp message to a work colleague in which she asked the workmate to submit her resignation on her behalf. Three days later, she sent a further message in which she stated, "Hi, just to let you know, I have done Panda Rose out of a lot of money. I was G. Anderson." A check of the bank details for G. Anderson with Muirhead's bank details found the sort code and the account numbers matched. Muirhead's house was searched while she was abroad. Mr Dixon said the address was systematically searched, during which documents in relation to credit cards, financial letters relating to the purchase of motor cars and motorcycles, documentation relating to ISAs for family members, £2,312 in cash, £3,000 £3,300 in gift vouchers and documentation in relation to the purchase of 2 static caravans to the value of £78,000 were recovered. First offender, Colleen Muirhead of Farquhar Road, Aberdeen, was later interviewed by police and admitted embezzling the money from her employer and creating the mysterious G. Anderson. The Crown indicated it intends to bring an action to seize the proceeds of the crime from Muirhead. Defence solicitor Chris Gilmartin told the court it is acknowledged that a custodial sentence is inevitable. So there, Gran Theft Auto. I mean, the thing is, I don't know how she get away with it from June 2015 and October 2021 before anybody really noticed. It's crackers.
And to steal that amount of money as well, it's insane. It's a huge amount of money to be able to get away with stealing.
I know.
Fucking hell. Panda Rosa Metals. I always remember they used to always have an advert on at the Odeon cinema whenever you went to watch a film.
Right, I thought there was something familiar, but I thought maybe I just passed I passed one of their places regularly. But that sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They always had an advert on the Odeon, Panda Rosa Metals. I never realised that was owned by the McAllisters, who are like the Lynches of Aberdeen, effectively.
Right.
If you know what I mean. So, she's been brave ripping them off, and how have they not noticed? Like 1.5 million.
Well,
gone missing.
You know, maybe to your point about them being the Lynches of Aberdeen, you know, like it's probably not. Well, I would imagine that if I wanted to launder some money, owning a scrap metal business would be quite a good way of doing it. I'm not saying that that's what the McAllisters are doing. I'm sure their business is reputable.
Oh.
I'm sure they wouldn't bring action against a former employee for ripping them off for £1.5 million if it wasn't. But I can imagine it's probably quite a good way to wash money.
So, so this granny's just been ripping them off, buying fucking static caravans,
charity tables,
investing in ISAs for her grandchildren, charity tables. You know, she spent the money wisely. It's not like she's frittered it away on cocaine and hookers.
True.
She's she's invested in stuff, and given some to charity. So she's not done okay, if you know what I mean. But she hasn't frittered it away.
No, I know. But the sad thing is now, I imagine that the static caravans and the grandkids' ISAs are going to be seized, and I don't know, then the money will make its way back to Panda Rosa.
Yeah, make it all the way back so they can buy some more adverts for the Odeon.
I wonder why they called it Panda Rosa, because the late feared crime lord in Glasgow, Arthur Thompson, he called his house, which was two semi-detached council houses with the walls knocked down, pushed together to make one big house. He called it the Ponderosa. So you got the Panda Rosa, 2 words. Scrap metal firm may or may not be funded by the proceeds of crime. Probably not. And then you got the Ponderosa in Glasgow, which was definitely purchased and renovated with the proceeds of crime. That's well documented in lots of books. That is not my opinion.
Maybe they're just a big fan of the Ponderosa Steakhouse in Florida.
Maybe, probably. Anyway, that's poor old Colleen. A custodial sentence is inevitable, so she'll be off to court and Vale. So she will near Stirling, the ladies' prison.
Shame. Well, good luck to her.
Indeed. Anyway, that's old Colleen. What's your first story this week?
So my first story this week also comes from Aberdeen, but it's not about an embezzling granny. It's about a TikTok star who has gone viral at creating the official sandwich of Aberdeen. But viewers were quick to notice a glaring error in his video.
Right.
TikTok star Big Nibbles, and has posted several clips creating sandwiches that represent towns and cities up and down the UK, and his latest creation saw him attempt to make the Granite Cities version. Slicing some white bread, he quickly turned his attention to the filling, which he filled with 3 deep-fried Mars bars, and gave fans a look at how to make the heart-stopping stack at home. His videos have often seen him take a cheeky swipe at each city, and this time it was no different. He said, famous for the invention of the deep-fried Mars bar, a snack that dissolves your teeth, sums up the place beautifully. I'll just leave it to your imagination as to what horrors lie there. All right, Big Nibbles, you fucking cunt. It was a quick and easy sandwich to make, and one that looked somewhat intriguing and also horrific. But fans quickly noticed an error in the video. Hundreds of TikTok users were quick to agree, as one commentator said, "Battered Mars bars was Stonehaven, not Aberdeen," with the reply receiving almost 600 likes. It even got a comment from one Stonehaven local who said, "I live in Stonehaven, and I was so mad until I saw this comment." Others were amazed by the sandwich, with one admitting, "I thought it was beef or pork at the start with gravy." And there is a picture of it, and it does genuinely look like a beef sandwich with gravy in it. It's like when you put the 3 Mars bars in it. "Is it just me who thought it was a pulled pork sandwich?" wrote another. While a third asked, "What about Aberdeen Angus beef?" A fourth said, "I'm not going to lie, I thought it was chicken and gravy sandwich at first." Another user said, "From Aberdeen, and you're making us sound bad." Many others were baffled, thinking it was meat in the sandwich, but despite the confusing look, at first it was actually a homemade deep-fried Mars bar that was oozing out of the sandwich. Loved and hated, it has become one of Scotland's most controversial dishes, and it is said to have originated at the Haven Fish and Chip Bar, now known as the Karen Fish and Chip Bar. The craze gripped the nation after 15-year-old John Davy dared his school pal Brian MacDonald to eat the bizarre concoction back in 1992. It caught them by surprise at how good it was and sparked a frenzy in Stonehaven, and soon made waves in the media when the Daily Record dubbed it Scotland's craziest takeaway in 1995. The hysteria never faded, as 12 years on from its creation, it was even featured on the American TV show Jay Leno's Tonight Show, and continues to draw visitors to the Aberdeenshire town today. So, deep fried Mars bar sandwich, that's the Aberdeen fucking sandwich that this big nipples or whatever he's calling himself is saying. Like, come on, surely it's Aberdeen Angus beef that you would go for in an Aberdeen sandwich. You're not going to go by deep fried Mars bar. Like, come on, that's scandalous. Yeah. I think we've spoken about this on the show before, but have you ever had a deep fried Mars bar?
No, I haven't, and it's not been because I've not like actively avoided it. I think the opportunity has just never ever come up for me to have a deep fried Mars bar. But the thing is, like, to your point, Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire, famous for obviously seafood, right on the right on the North Sea there, and also, like you said earlier, famous for Aberdeen Angus beef. You know what I mean? So
well, that would have been my
a sandwich has to incorporate at least one of those things. Maybe like a surf and turf sandwich is like an Aberdeen sandwich. You know,
that would have been my first thought. Some nice seafood, some nice haddock or something, and exactly like a Aberdeen Angus beef or something. Not a deep fried Mars bar. It's just that's just lazy.
Is this like Big Nibbles? He's not from Aberdeen, is he?
No, he's not. He's a TikTok star. I don't know where he's from actually, but he's doing UK City, so I presume he's UK based. I think.
I think twice about
I don't know,
taking that tour north of Dundee. Well, that sort of... I used to find that people, like English people who would try to roast me a bit for being Scottish, because, there's always a couple of English people that just can't help themselves, got to roast you a bit, especially when you're an expat, and they would mention deep-fried Mars bars amidst the roasting. You know what I mean? They're just like, fucking, you can buy a deep-fried Mars bar here in Dubai.
Well, that was it. I mean, I remember when I lived in Norwich, I mean, it was... that was back, obviously, the early 2000s. And I guess that was still the term of abuse. And I remember a guy I worked with, I still remember his name, Mike Harmer. He was a fucking cock. And he didn't like me for some reason. And I remember we were a night out and he'd had a few beers. And he came up to me and said, "Oh, you fucking jock, you're from Aberdeen, do you eat deep-fried Mars bars?" And I said to him, "Well, no, that's a stereotype." I was like, "You're from Norfolk, do you fuck your sister?"
Nice.
And he took great offence to that and asked me for a fight. And I accepted and was like, "Come on, outside now." And then he backed down, and which, as you know me, Greg, it's not like me, but I just took such offence to that, and I think the fact I stood up to him because I was so angry, it went down in folklore for the rest of the time I was in Norwich about me wanting to fight this guy. And to be fair, he sent me an apology email like on the Monday, saying he was very sorry, and I didn't reply. He was a cunt.
I mean, famously back in your Norwich days, you were a lover, not a fighter, right?
I've always been a lover, not a fighter, Greg. I've never been a fighter. I've never been a fighter. I think I've only really thrown like one punch at someone, and you saw me throw that punch. And even then, it was a cheap shot to the back of the head at some guy that had pushed me. Like, again, that was just anger of him annoying. Like, and it was more to teach him a lesson. As I shout, "Don't push people," was my amazing retort to him.
Nicky's Christmas message.
Don't push people.
Pretty sure it was either Christmas Day night or Boxing Day night. I can't quite remember.
I think it was Christmas Day night. Yeah, I think. So there you go. If you want an Aberdeen sandwich, then it is white bread and a couple of deep fried Mars bars, which I don't agree with. I think a nice
sweet things in with bread aren't. I don't know. Like, for me personally, I could have something sweet if there was something. Say it was like a sort of turkey sandwich and there was a bit of cranberry on there. I could handle that because I've got savoury and sweet. But just like something so sweet, like Mars bars, even when they're not deep fried, are super sweet. To have that between two slices of bread, it's just a bit much.
Well, that's what the Dutch basically have for breakfast. They have chocolate sprinkles on bread.
I mean, that is mental. I can't eat sweet things in the morning. Like, I honestly can't. I've never been able to. When I was growing up, we never had the sweet cereals in the house. If my mum could be arsed, we'd have porridge, and I would sometimes take a wee bit of sugar and porridge. But other than that, it was like Rice Krispies with only milk or cornflakes or something, like all those like Ricicles, Lucky Charms, things like that. I just can't handle them. No. But then Americans like have tons of sugary sweet stuff in the morning, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I did used to like Frosties when I was a kid, but I would be honest, like I couldn't stomach that nowadays. Crunchy nut cornflakes I can do, but then that's brown sugar and honey and oats. But I can handle that. I
tell yourself whatever you need to
nowadays.
But no, I do like crunchy nut cornflakes, and there is something ridiculously Moorish about them, and I discovered that at least 20 years before they built a whole marketing campaign around it. It surprised me how long it took them to come to that advertising campaign, like in the sort of 90s.
You can't really just have one bowl, can you? You need to have like another little half bowl, maybe.
Nice cold milk, yeah.
Yeah, but I could never understand like Lucky Charms and stuff having like marshmallows for breakfast.
America, though, mate.
Oh, get to
America. That's what they have. I mean, I remember when we were in America on our honeymoon, I had cornflakes in the hotel one morning. Just cornflakes on their own with some cold milk. And the cornflakes, because I always like to leave a few dry bits of cereal on top. So like a few dry ones on top, and then the ones underneath absorbing the milk. And even like the dry one on its own tasted a lot sweeter than the cornflakes we have back in Europe. Like a lot sweeter. I was like, what's the matter with these people? My wife was like, why are you getting so fucking upset? Just have something else for your breakfast. Supposed to be on our honeymoon. You're ranting on about cornflakes. Anyway.
Oh, never mind. Well, that is the Aberdeen Sandwich, Greg. So what else have you seen this week in the news?
Well, it's not so much a news story, although it does come from the Scotsman newspaper, but I found 10 laws which are still legal laws in Scotland, although you're unlikely to be prosecuted for some of these, but I'll take you through them. There's 10 of them altogether. So the first one is, number 1, in Scotland, it is illegal to refuse to allow a stranger to use your toilet if they ask you to. You know that? Can you imagine? I mean, that's something you wouldn't want people to know too much about.
That just instantly reminds me of that tune, the Fat sketch.
Yeah.
When the guy comes in to use the toilet and Fort Kiernan sits with the full glass window watching him.
Eating an orange.
Yeah, that's it.
It just reminds me, and I've told the story in the podcast before, but of our old milkman's sort of helper when we lived in the flat, asking to use the toilet all the time, and then my mother finally allowed him to do it and fucking ruining our flat for the weekend. So number 2 is it is illegal to sing on the train. You must have written permission from the train operator to sing legally on the train.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you know what you're not allowed to do in the train in Scotland anymore? Have a fucking beer. It's not allowed. I found out that when I was when I was back in March. We got the train from Aberdeen down to Edinburgh to change to go to Newcastle, and we booked like first class because it wasn't that much more expensive. And I thought, well, why not? You know, I've got the money, mate. So live my life. So we had booked first class for both legs, and on the ScotRail, I was looking forward to having a couple of complimentary. Although it was only like 10 in the morning, but I thought my wife will be fine because we're in first class. It's first class. She'll be fine. She'll have a drink as well. And all that was offered to us was tea and biscuits or coffee.
Wow.
Although it was it was comfortable. And then when we got on the English train take us to Newcastle, it was like a full course meal, lots of nice drinks and stuff. The only thing was it was Edinburgh to Newcastle, which takes it feels like about 5 minutes, so we couldn't really enjoy it. But it's illegal to sing on the train. Number 3, it's illegal to handle a salmon whilst looking suspicious. So
okay,
keep that in mind next time you're doing your shopping. Number 4, it's illegal to doodle on a banknote.
Oh, well, that's, of course.
Yeah. What are we up to? Number 5, it is illegal to gamble in a library in Scotland. Apparently in 1898, children were enjoying their time in a library a bit too much, betting and stuff like that. So in order to protect the studious atmosphere, a law was imposed that forbade betting and gambling in the library. So as usual, one person ruins it for the rest of us. Number 6, if you're under the age of 10, it is illegal for you to see a naked mannequin.
Oh, okay. Wow.
This law was made in the Victorian age amidst like numerous decency laws, and it makes it illegal for any boy under the age of 10 to see a naked mannequin.
So they can't watch Kim Cattrall in Sex and the City then?
No, certainly not. But then you might not let a sub 10-year-old watch that anyway. It's because it's fucking rubbish. Number 7, it's illegal to fire a cannon within 300 yards of any homes. Seems like a sensible law, doesn't it?
Yeah, but then does Edinburgh Castle not fire a cannon like every day?
It does, but does anybody live around there in the old town?
It must do.
300 yards away?
Sure.
The castle's quite high.
300 yards?
Is it 300 yards
Maybe
high,
not.
the castle? I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, it brings a lot of tourists in, so it's probably one that we probably let go. Number 8, it is illegal to manage cattle when you're on the cans. So if you're drunk, not allowed. Not allowed. This law was put in place to protect public order, and it made it illegal to handle cattle and or horses, as well as managing carriages and steam engines. The latter two seem sensible when you've had a few cans.
You can't be steaming on a steam engine.
No, certainly can't. Sounds like a sort of kid's song, a little sort of nursery rhyme with an important message.
Thomas the Tanked Up engine.
Yes, exactly. Number 9. Actually, do you remember in Thomas the Tank Engine when one of the trains was like bricked into his arch under the railway bridge for being, I don't know, he'd been like mugging people off, I don't know, misbehaving or something, and they bricked him.
I want to say
him in to punish him.
Yeah, I want to say it was either Gordon or Henry, wasn't it?
Sounds like Gordon. Gordon was a bit of a spiv, wasn't he?
Gordon. Yeah, it wasn't Percy. It might have been Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, a bit of bricking him in. It seems a bit harsh. It's like a sort of terrifying punishment.
I've been watching a lot of Oz recently, mate. It's not the most terrifying punishment I've seen.
Yeah. Okay. Number 9. A law that is definitely being broken as we record. Somewhere in Scotland, it is illegal to be drunk in a pub or any public place.
Wow! Really?
Yeah.
What? That is illegal in Scotland?
It is illegal.
Wow.
I mean, I do remember when we were getting our training for our licensing languages or license or like alcohol licenses. Sorry, I do remember them telling us that it's illegal to be drunk in the pub. And and thinking, fucking hell, I have broken that law more times than I can remember.
Prisons would be full.
I know. It says being drunk in a pub seems a relatively logical place to be drunk. However, according to a couple of laws from the 19th and 20th century, keepers of public houses cannot allow any drunkenness on their property, and they cannot serve alcohol to those who are already drunk. Not only that, one of the laws prohibited being drunk in any public place or pub, which is still in place today. And certainly, I think you and I have both been turned away in our younger days from bars for being in our cups somewhat whilst trying to place an order. I've certainly been refused entry to more nightclubs than I can remember after being interrogated by the bouncers. Where have you been tonight? Which pubs you go to? How much you have to drink? How much you had to eat? And, you know, usually stumbling at the first question and not getting let in. So that's definitely one that's still in force. And then number 10, it's illegal. It's illegal should you come across a beached whale on one of Scotland's many beautiful beaches, or perhaps a sturgeon, you must offer it to the reigning monarch or you're breaking the law. So this law comes from the 1300s. Edward II decided to proclaim that all fish, sturgeons, whales, dolphins and porpoises captured within 5 kilometres of the British shore immediately belonged to the ruling royal. So the next time you come across like a sort of decomposed fucking sea trout if you're walking on the beach, stick it in the post to Buckingham Palace. I'm just following the law.
Think he's fucking Aquaman or something.
He's obviously really, really liked fish. Edward II. I mean,
mind you, to be fair to King Charlie, I bet he could breathe through his ears because of that fucking thick. So maybe he is Aquaman. Who knows?
Imagine not breaking any laws. Why have you posted? Why have you posted this decomposing sea snake to Buckingham Palace? Because it's the law. You know?
It's the law. Belongs to him. I found it on the beach. It belongs to him.
Exactly.
Has to be
offered to him. So that's my second story this week. Beware looking suspicious if you're handling a salmon, or looking at a naked mannequin if you're under the age of 10. What's your next story this week?
Okay, my next story this week, Greg, is from Glasgow Live, and it is a wonderful, I think, initiative from Glasgow Caledonian University. They have set up a Taggart Archive, and they put out a plea asking people to come back with any memories or any thoughts they had. And, well, I'll let the article speak for itself. So, Glasgow Archive chiefs calling for locals to share tales of their time working on Taggart have hailed an amazing response in just 48 hours. With its iconic theme tune and gritty storylines, Taggart set the standard for modern TV police drama and turned its much-loved cast into household names. To coincide with the 40th anniversary of the detective show first airing, Glasgow Caledonian University announced the launch of Taggart, the People's Archive. Retired detectives will host drop-in sessions at the university's Archive Centre next month in a mock police station to take witness statements, resulting in a creation of a new archive. Members of the public who were involved in location shoots, worked as extras, played a corpse, or provided props or expertise to the show are being urged to come forward so that their stories can be captured. Aiming to recognise and honour the role the general public played in the outstanding success of the show, Caledonian Uni bosses have launched an appeal on Tuesday morning. The Facebook post alone was shared over 270 times and amassed well over 100 comments as locals reacted in their droves. And on Thursday, just 48 hours later, the university shared an update that said the response had been amazing. Taggart star Blythe Duff will volunteer over 3 days from September the 6th to the 8th. Blythe played the formidable Jackie Reed in the show and is an honorary graduate of the Cultural GCU. She said, everyone I meet has a Taggart story, like, oh, you filmed at my auntie's house, or you filmed in our street, or I was an extra for that day. I've worked with so many people who watched us and film it and just inspired them to become directors or writers or even join the police. It made me realise just how important these stories are to the fabric of our series. In 2018, Blythe donated 95 episodes worth of scripts to the university archives, along with a treasure trove of Taggart material, including photographs, awards, memorabilia and press cuttings. A selection of these items will be on display during drop-in sessions. The retired detectives, helped by university archivists, will collect all the stories, and some of the contributions will be added to display boards and maps in the incident room set up on campus. Blythe, who devised the new archive, praised the police force for being incredibly supportive during the Taggart years. She added, "The police were always so supportive of the series whenever we filmed, and they were always ready to step up to the mark. And they were going to have some fun as we recreate an incident room where the public can give us some witness statements and hopefully some memorabilia which will be used as evidence to collaborate their story." Taggart's pilot Killer, which we covered on episode 8 of the Culture Swally, was first screened on STV on September the 6th, 1983. Locations featured in Detective Chief Inspector Jim Taggart's first outing include a riverbank off Kelvindale Road, a canal off Mary Hill Road, the Botanic Gardens, Partick Cross and Sight Hill Cemetery. Carol McCallum, archivist at Glasgow Caledonian University, stressed that no story was too small in this latest project. She said, "What better way is there to give Glasgow and Scotland a voice in the Taggart story than through the people who loved and supported it the most?" So drop-in sessions for Taggart the People's Archive will take place at the GCU Archive Centre in the St Alex Ferguson Library. Opening times will have passed by the time that we have released this podcast. But anyway, I just thought this is wonderful that the university is celebrating, probably one of the most iconic TV shows that Scotland has ever produced.
Absolutely. I don't know why we haven't done more Taggarts. And just when you were talking there, I was thinking, definitely need to get one of the iconic stories done in the next few episodes of the pod. Do you think do you think Blythe Duff still gets paid off Taggart? I know that they don't make it anymore, but I've never seen her in anything else, unless she's in River City, but I don't watch River City. But I don't know, I'm wondering if it's still, maybe she's retired now, I don't know how old she is.
I've no idea, to be honest. Let's have a little look, because we've got this wonderful invention called the internet. Blythe Duff is 60, and it doesn't look like she's done much since Taggart, to be honest. She does a fair bit of theatre.
Ah, okay. So she's still jobbing away.
She was in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, like a few years ago.
Is that the play? That's the play, right? That's not one of the films.
Yeah.
I once, I think I've said in the podcast before, I once let James McPherson jump the queue with his family at Frankie and Benny's at the Quay one Sunday afternoon when he came in looking. He obviously wasn't hopeful. I don't know whether it had been his job to sort out booking a table and he'd fucked it. But he came in. I had a bit of a waiting list going, and he came in and asked if he sort of, like, with low expectations, he was like, "I don't suppose you've got a table for 4 just now, do you?" And I was like, "Yeah, get you. Problem is, of course, mister.
We'll get you.
Don't you worry, Jardine. I'll get you in. No bother me.
I'll get you in, Jardine."
So obviously, I was hoping that this would be the beginning of a burgeoning friendship that would maybe get me a wee gig as an extra on Taggart or something like that. But that was the one and only time that I ever saw him. I didn't even see him leave, so I couldn't even be there to be thanked for squeezing him in. I was waiting.
He probably didn't have the clout to get you.
I was waiting for
in as an extra.
I was waiting for a fag when he left, so I was gutted.
Is there any other Scottish shows you think deserve an archive collection like that?
I suppose the obvious one, and I did when I was at home. I was having a look at a mess about with the STV player, and I watched not whole episodes, but some bits of very old Take the High Roads from the very, very early 80s. And I suppose I guess its star has maybe faded somewhat because it's not been on the telly for well over 20 years. But I remember Take the High Road being on TV when I lived in England on ITV.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, it was.
Never knew that.
It was a big deal. I suppose in those days you had sort of Take the High Road from Scotland, you had Coronation Street from supposedly Manchester, and then you had Emmerdale from Yorkshire and EastEnders from London. So you had soaps that were very much sort of locale driven, regional. That's what I was thinking for. Yeah. So I think so to have England had sort of 3 major ones, and Scotland had 1. Now Scotland still only has 1, and I don't think the BBC put River City on in any of their BBC One local regional stations in the UK.
No.
So, but yeah, I imagine maybe Take the High Road. What would be good would be an archive, and I don't know if anything would be available really apart from some scripts and stuff, but like an archive of like Peter McDougall plays, so maybe like maybe some of the wardrobe from Just a Boys Game, you know what I mean? Some of the sashes from Just Another Saturday, something like that, Billy Connolly's little sort of tartan waistcoat that he's wearing in the pub. Little denim waistcoat that he's wearing in the pub. Yeah, that would be quite good. You know what I mean? I always think Peter McDougall doesn't get anywhere near the sort of modern attention that he deserves for those plays that he wrote. We've done most of them, and every one of them's a fucking absolute banger.
Just incredible! Like I don't think there's not a single one that we haven't covered that we haven't absolutely loved, and I want to go back and watch again. They're so good. So yeah, I agree. I don't think he gets enough credit as he deserves. No. So you're right.
What about you? Have you got any thoughts on a TV show that could be archived like this?
I'd say Rhapsody Nesbitt is probably up there for me. But I think you could probably combine that into like a Scottish comedy museum or archive, because I think Still Game would also be needed, and that way you can wire in things like City Lights and Naked Video, and even Two Doors Down, as a kind of, that'd be a wonderful museum, Scottish comedy throughout the kind of 80s, going from the early 80s or 70s to, and that way you can incorporate things like Scotch and Rye and
Francie and Josie and Stanley Baker and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that would be a wonderful little museum to have. So maybe in the future we can
I could see it.
Maybe we should create it.
Yeah, I could
create it. Create it and curate it is what I was looking for there.
I could see them doing something like that at the Kelvin Grove. When I was in the Kelvin Grove in the summer, and they had a sort of Mary Quant special exhibition on down in the basement. But I was seeing them do some stuff. They've done like Doctor Who and things as well, like in the years gone by. So they're quite cool.
Okay, well, have you got anything else you've seen in the news this week, Greg?
Well, not so much in the news. It's very quick, but there is a Twitter account that I quite enjoy, called The Upshot, and it basically just tells sort of funny stories about famous athletes and some of the misadventures of the more colourful characters over the years of the sporting world. But there was one about when George Best, when he was at Hibs. So this is a story of George Best's biggest bender that he went on when he was playing at Hibs, right? So when the 35-year-old rocked up at Hibernian in 1979, his new manager described it as a disaster waiting to happen. He was soon proven right. Before a big cup game against Ayr United, changed days, the gaffer ordered Best to spend the night in his room at Edinburgh's famous Balmoral Hotel. It was all going to plan until George bumped into hard-drinking French rugby player Jean-Pierre Rives in the lobby. Best agreed to join him for a very quick half pint, but that was never going to happen. And things escalated when Debbie Harry, lead singer of Blondie, joined them at the bar. Best had no recollection of what happened next other than bedlam. At 11 a.m. the next day, the Hibs coach arrived to take him to the game. He found Best passed out beside Debbie Harry, unable to say anything except, "I'm so pissed." After a vat of coffee and several slaps, George opened his eyes, gestured toward the Blondie singer. "What would you rather do? Spend the afternoon with her or play Ayr United?" Suffice to say that George didn't make the game. What a legend.
Fair play. Yeah, if it's, I'd agree. If it was a choice between prime Debbie Harry or playing against Ayr United, then see you later, Ayr United. Yeah, without a doubt.
So that made me laugh. But we don't get anything out of this, but if you enjoy funny stories about colourful sporting characters over the years, I would steer you towards The Upshot on Twitter. It's often a good laugh.
Okay, anything else this week, Greg?
Nope, that's it.
Right. Well, before we go on to what we're going to be talking about on the podcast today, let's have a little word from our sponsors. And our sponsor on this episode is Doric Skateboards. Doric Skateboards is a skateboard brand created by Gary Kemp, whose main focus is to explore the people and culture of Aberdeen and the northeast of Scotland, and to create designs that reflect that area. Doric Skateboards screen print their own decks in their studio by Gary's fair hand, and they produce you some amazing designs over the years, including an Annie Lennox-inspired board, a Robert the Bruce deck, and a plenty of pop deck inspired by the old Bonnecord trucks that used to drive around Aberdeen delivering fizzy drinks. Doric Skateboards also replicate these amazing designs onto their clothing on 100% organic cotton tees, hoodies and sweatshirts, and you can fill your boots on stickers, pin badges, beanies, caps and a whole lot more. Gary regularly collaborates with local artists to ensure he brings the latest designs to the market, but always with a Doric twist, including their amazing new Northfield Tower design. Check out Doric Skateboards for yourself on doricskateboards.com and follow them on Instagram at Doric Skateboards to see the amazing designs that they have on offer. And we are delighted to be able to offer you 15% off as listeners to this podcast. All you need to do is head to doricskateboards.com, have a look at the amazing decks, stickers, badges, hoodies, tees and hats, everything they have on offer, and enter the promo code SWALLY. That's SWALLY, all in block capitals, same with the name of this podcast, to get your 15% off. That's doricskateboards.com. Okay, Greg, so it was your choice on the Swally this week. So why don't you tell us what we're going to be looking at on the podcast today?
So I chose the 2018 movie The Vanishing. Stars Gerard Butler, who I don't think we've had on the podcast before. I don't think. Peter Mullan, who
we have.
Have we? Oh yeah, the Young Person's Guide. Yep. We've had Peter Mullan, who we've had on many times, and Connor Swindells making his Swally debut. The film's loosely based on the 1900 disappearance of the Flannan Isle's lighthouse crew from Edenmore Island. Butler, Mullan and Swindells play three lighthouse keepers whose shift take a dark turn. It was directed by Christopher Nyholm and written by Kellen Jones and Joe Bone. So, I literally stumbled across this when I was having a look at some possible Swally material a few weeks ago. I hadn't heard of this movie. Completely passed me by. I mean, it's 5 years old, so I'd never seen it. I don't think you'd seen it. What was your first thoughts?
Yeah, completely passed me by as well. I had no idea about it until maybe about a year ago when I was looking at stuff for the Swally and it came to my attention. I think I probably was looking at Peter Mullan's IMDb or something, and it came up that this film existed, but I had no idea about it. So first time watching it, funnily enough, I listened to a podcast maybe about 2 months ago, and it was a guy discussing the disappearance of these three lighthouse guys on this lighthouse in Scotland.
Right.
And I kind of put two together, and they mentioned, I think it was made into a film in 2018 with Peter Mullan. I was like, oh wow, that's that film. So it'd been on my radar since then. I've thought, right, I need to cover this at some point on the Swally. I'd never seen it until watching it this week for the first time, and I have to say, I really enjoyed it. It's very slow paced, I think, in the beginning, and but there's just so much atmosphere about it, and just so much kind of creepiness, and it's so beautifully shot, and it's so beautifully acted, and the tension at some points of this film is just absolutely incredible. And I think three great performances from the three lead actors as well. I mean, Gerard Butler, has he ever been better than he is in this? He's fantastic in this film. Mullan is Mullan, as he always is, but I thought it was a really interesting story, and obviously it's inspired by a true story, and We'll come on to that later, because although it is based on a true story, it's not really. The only real thing that happened is that these three lighthouse keepers disappeared. Yeah. No one has any idea what happened to them. Everything else in the film is completely made up. All the subplots with the gold and these other guys coming onto the island are completely made up. But I thought it was a really gripping film, and it's an hour and 46 minutes, which 16 minutes too long for my, we like a 90-minute film, Greg. We like a tight 90-minute film, but it had me gripped, and it did keep me engaged, and I really enjoyed it. But what about yourself? What did you think?
I enjoyed it too. When I watched a trailer for it with my daughter like a couple of weeks ago, and she said that I might watch that with you. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. My daughter's like 15, so she's sort of getting older. Her taste in movies is becoming a bit more sophisticated. So we watched it together just last night. And yeah, we both thoroughly enjoyed it. It was interesting watching it with her because there's a few a few tropes, especially in the sort of second and third act, that, we've seen in films that have had sort of similar plots and stuff. But it was interesting with her seeing her reaction, because she's obviously not seen anywhere near as many movies as you and I have seen. So she's like, what are you doing? What's he doing that for? Oh, for goodness sake. Do you know what I mean? Getting really annoyed and stuff. But yeah, we both really enjoyed it. I watched, so Mark Kermode reviewed it for the Kermode and Simon Mayo movie review show that they do on the BBC. And you made me think of this when you mentioned Gerard Butler there, because his career, it's sort of against all odds, really. He's become this big Hollywood, he's not quite an A-list actor, but I don't think he's quite a B-list actor either. He sort of sits in this kind of weird hinterland between the two. But, most of the movies he does, as Mark Kermode describes him, shouting on a submarine, shouting on a helicopter, shouting on the lawn of the White House, that kind of thing. He said, so it was good to see him playing quiet, and even obviously we're going to spoil the film, so you should, I hope you know that by now. If you're listening, it's all makes sense to watch before you listen. But even towards the end of the second and the third act, when his character James has sort of gone a bit crazy, he's quiet. You know what I mean? He's not like he's not like the Gerard Butler that we've come to see. What in the kind of movies he's really made his money from over the last sort of 10 years or so. Like one of my favourite films of his that I really enjoyed him in, and it's an ensemble, is Rock and Roller, the Guy Ritchie movie that he's in with.
Just about to say that is probably my favourite Butler performance.
So after this film, I think the Rock and Roller really reminds people that he does have quite a lot of range as an actor, but for whatever reason he seems to sort of tend toward, and I imagine it's because they pay him a lot of money, and I think he's around about the same age as you and I, maybe slightly older, so he's got to earn his money. I'm sure he's got a family and everything else, so it was good to see him in this, and it really reminded me, because I haven't watched a Gerard Butler film in fucking years. I mean, to be honest, if I see if like Olympus Has Fallen or something is on the telly, I'll fucking turn over, and just to avoid it. Like the last big Hollywood film of his that I enjoyed was Law Abiding Citizen, with Jamie Foxx. I quite liked that one. That was quite good. It was quite clever. And of course the 300s, I mean, it's fucking ridiculous, but it's good fun, and it's short. It's quick, 90 minutes. It's if there's nothing else on, it's worth watching again. But otherwise, I wouldn't be like booking my tickets in advance for Gerard Butler's next big film. So it was really good to see him in this, like really showing that he's actually a fucking good actor.
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant in this. I again, exactly as you've said, he's not shouty, he's quiet the whole time. You really believe him. And initially he's kind of the muscle of the three, and I really like his relationship with Donald in the beginning, and he's pretty witty as well. And I can't work out what the relationship is. Like they obviously knew each other beforehand, but they're he's almost like a older brother, kind of father figure,
kind of
to him,
mentor type
thing. And he's very playful when they're cleaning the lighthouse, and Donald's breathing on it, and he kind of, smacks him, and a particularly good thing, what does this do then? Oh, it's a foghorn.
Yeah.
When do we use it? When it's foggy. It's, Butler's deadpan delivery in those kind of parts is great. And he does play the muscle well, when things start going a little bit awry on the island, he provides kind of the backup. He's the kind of B.A. Baracus of the team that is sorting out the muscle. But then he also, as latterly it goes on, he plays the unhinged mental guy very well, and you really believe that he's lost it. And spoiler, we'll come back to it later on, but when he comes kind of back in towards the end of the film, he's like, "It's okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've thought about it." I genuinely believed, like, okay, he's okay.
Yeah.
And
I did.
it's going to be okay.
I did.
Really did.
Up to the point where Thomas goes off to the pantry and he sort of looks sideways at Donald, and I'm like, right, Donald, you're fucked.
Oh. But that shows, the kind of the range that Butler does have and that he is capable of, and he is a good actor. I mean, I think what Butler would genuinely benefit from is like a really good TV show. A prime kind of HBO or Showtime, like a decent role in a TV show. I think he would really benefit from something like that to really make a mark.
Yeah, I mean, the first one that I ever saw him in, and I went on a double date to see this with our mutual friend, the artist occasionally known as Techno Jock. Him and I took a couple of birds to see Dracula 2000 at the cinema. In Aberdeen, and I remember quite enjoying it. I thought it was quite good. I think Johnny Lee Miller was in it, Christopher Plummer was in it. Butler plays the eponymous Dracula. It sort of spins this sort of a newish theory that Dracula is actually Judas Iscariot. And his punishment for betraying Jesus is being an immortal vampire. Doesn't sound like that much of a punishment to me, but it wasn't. I remember being quite surprised and quite enjoying the film. But then if you go through his sort of filmography, I mean, the 300 is his break. That's what really launches him. And then he goes and does P.S. I Love You with what was her name? Hilary Swank. Completely different from the swords and sandals nonsense of the 300. Then he does a Rock and Roller where he plays 1-2, which is a fucking completely underrated Guy Ritchie movie in my opinion. I don't know why it's not mentioned in the same conversations as movies like Lock, Stock and Snatch when you're talking about Guy Ritchie. I don't really understand. I think it's fucking brilliant.
It's too confusing. I think a lot of people find it to be a little bit too confusing.
Fucking idiot. Pay closer attention. And then he goes off. He sort of goes from, he does Law Abiding Citizen, he does Gamer, which is fucking dreadful. He sort of keeps the lights on with doing voices and How to Train Your Dragon franchise over the years. But then it's stuff like Machine Gun Preacher, Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, Den of Thieves, and in the middle of all the Angel Has Fallen, Greenland, but in the middle of all these like big bombastic Hollywood sort of popcorn and chewing gum kind of movies, he does this really thoughtful psychological drama back in his native country with fucking Peter Mullan, probably, if not definitely, our most accomplished actor from Scotland who's working at the moment. You know what I mean? There's and to your point, he's fucking brilliant in it. So I tend to think, well, surely, I mean, he must by now, Butler, be a multi-millionaire. He could probably retire, surely, but by now if he wanted to. Yeah. So why not, instead of just picking these ridiculous fucking movies that sort of come and go, why not do more interesting stuff like this, you know? Yeah. And the thing is as well,
River City or something.
Arguably, it's not even his film. Arguably, he's a supporting actor. Mullan really is the lead. Like, Mullan as Thomas is the kind of lead in the film. Really? Yeah. Like, I know Butler's name's above him on the poster because I guess he's more recognisable and he'll sell more tickets than Peter Mullan will. But he's playing a supporting part, and I'm sure he seems like a smart guy, Gerald Butler. So I'm sure he realised that when he agreed to do it. I couldn't find any interviews with him about this film, but I'm sure he probably wanted to work with Peter Mullan, and that's one of the reasons they did it. You know?
You can always tell from the performance he delivers in this film that he's enjoying himself and he's happy to be on screen with Mullan, because when he is on screen, and that's the thing, is it a case of Gerard Butler delivers a great performance, or is it that he is bouncing off of Mullan and that's making
draws it out of him
deliver a...
Maybe.
Yeah, it could well be, because a lot of the times they're on screen together, like I say, I have genuinely, spoiler alert, like, who wins the movie? I'm kind of torn between Mullan and Butler, because, and it's maybe just out of sympathy for Butler, because he's fucking great in this film. Yeah. Like, he's so good. And it's such a shame that he is, and I'd kind of slightly disagree with you in terms of A-list, B-list. I think he's firmly a B-list. Yeah. If you look at the shite he's churning out at the moment, he is a B-list, kind of B-movie actor at the moment, making all these kind of subpar action films that are just shite. But then he's got his, it's his kind of bread and butter, and that's what he knows to do. He's like a shitty Scottish bearded Jason Statham in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas Statham is still A-list, and he's still in the Fast and the Furious films. He's still
the Meg too.
Statham will make a B-list film, but it's kind of, they've almost done a similar kind of trajectory. But I would say Butler is slightly.
I think Butler's a
than
far better actor than Stratham. Like, when it comes to acting, I think he's a far better actor than Stratham. I don't think Stratham's put in a better performance than when he was in Lock, Stock. Snatch, I think, is probably Stratham's best performance as an actor. Everything else, what's the one, the sort of franchise he was in? The Transporter. You know what I mean? And then, he's in Shaw and Hobbs and Shaw and stuff, and he's in the Meg, and he's done a few films with Jet Li and everything. Essentially just playing a fucking hard bastard that can do fucking amazing martial arts. Whereas Gerard Butler is a good actor. But he's demonstrated it in this. And I think as well, I couldn't imagine Jason Statham agreeing to do like a sort of Ritchie-esque sort of London gangster movie, or even like some sort of oldie Victorian thing where he's got to wear like a Victorian wardrobe and be like an interesting character in a sort of psychological Victorian mystery or something like that. Do you know what I mean? I can't see him doing that somehow. But I could see...
You can't see Statham doing a Guy Ritchie gangster movie?
Not now, Okay. Yeah, I couldn't see him.
Was he not in the most recent Guy Ritchie movie?
Which one? Oh, the one, not the most recent one. Yeah, but he's in one that's set in America, but it doesn't feel like a Guy Ritchie movie. He's like he does like bank heists and stuff. I can't remember what it's called. The Something of Man or something. It wasn't very good. I watched it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see him, like when Guy Ritchie made the Sherlock Holmes film, I couldn't see Stratham playing like Watson to Robert Downey Jr.'s Holmes or something like that. You know what I mean? The way that Jude Law did. Because he's just sort of... And then, don't get me wrong, I fucking really like Jason Statham. I do like him. And I like watching these films, even though a lot of them are fucking nonsense. But I like it. I like watching them batter the absolute shit out of somebody in a film. But I just think... I couldn't see him making the choice that Gerard Butler made to appear in this film at this point in his career,
Okay, so I think we've spoken about Gerard Butler quite a fair bit. So in terms of the actual film, so it's about these 3 lighthouse keepers that are looking after this lighthouse on this island, and there's a big storm, and they find a dead body the next day, effectively, with this chest. But it turns out it's not a dead body. It's the guy ends up attacking one of them, Donald. And they find this chest, and fuck me, it's got gold in it. But then these other guys come looking for the gold, and this big rammy ensues on the island, and yeah. So in terms of the storyline, I thought it was like, it took a while to get going, which I actually really liked, because it helps you get to know the characters. Because otherwise you're just like, okay, it's Gerard Butler, it's Peter Mullan, and who's this guy? Some young kid. Because I wasn't aware of Connor Swindells before. But in terms of I really liked the way they had the slow build up, because you got to know, okay, Mullan is this grumpy-ish kind of guy, but he's been a lighthouse keeper for 25 years. He's got some sort of dark secret in terms of something to do with his wife and kids. He gets on with people, but he's a grumpy bastard, because even the way he's speaking to Kenny, played by Gary Lewis, you kind of get the feeling they're old friends. But he's still a grumpy bastard when they're on the boat. Kenny's trying to have a bit of banter with him, and even then he's like, just how much further? Come on. Yeah, come on.
You get everything you need, Paul. See you in 6 weeks.
I'll just drive a bloody boat, man.
And you have obviously James, played by Gerard Butler, who's a family man, obviously just doing this for the money. He seems quite light-hearted. And then young Donald, who played by Connor Swindells, who I guess this is his first trip, because he's sick on the boat on the way over. Yeah. So I guess it's the first time he's doing it, and they're having to kind of show him the ropes. Yeah. And you kind of get the impression when they get there, first thing he does, feet on the table, lights a fire. Yeah. And whereas, James is sweeping the floor, Thomas is tending to stuff, marking the whiskey bottle with a little pencil to see how much anyone's scoofing, although it's him that's scoofing most of it. And yeah, you get the impression it's his first time, coming here.
Yeah, for sure. I'd seen Connor Swindells in... there was a show on the BBC last year about the formation of the SAS called Rogue Heroes, and he plays real-life character David Sterling, who is credited with forming the SAS in the Second World War in North Africa. But in that film, in that TV show, he seems like a really tall, sort of broad-shouldered kind of guy. But I don't know if it's just because, obviously, he's 4 or 5 years younger in this. He's in shots a lot with Gerard Butler, who's a big fella. But, he seems sort of slight, and he seems really young as well. I mean, I did throw up my mouth a little bit when I saw that he was born in 1996, which was the year I left school. But he's not Scottish, crucially. He's English. But he does a pretty good Scottish accent, but also holds his own, really. I won't go on about Butler, but we've said already that he is very good in this. And then you've got this sort of performance that we've come to expect from Peter Mullan, this sort of brooding, haunted, unpredictable sort of older statesman, but kind of performance, whereas, because the thing about Mullan is we find out that his wife had given birth to twins. The twins hadn't survived. She seems to have passed away, whether it's a result of the twins or whether it's a result of depression or whether she might have killed herself is sort of hinted at as well when the Norwegian guy asks Thomas if he could ask how his wife died, and obviously like suicide would have been back then a sort of shameful thing to admit to, suicide in your family. But it doesn't have to be explained. From the minute we meet Thomas when they're setting off and they're getting together to get on the boat, you already know that there's something there with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was watching, the actor David Ogg, who plays Trevor in Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yes.
So he was being interviewed on a podcast, and he was talking about how Peter Mullan is his favourite actor. And he describes the opening scene in Tyrannosaur, which is a hard scene to watch, especially for you and I, because we are big dog fans. But we see Mullan's character in the pub, and he's fucking slamming beers. And then I think he gets told that he's got to leave because he's too pissed. So he comes out in a bad mood. The dog's whining, so he boots the dog, and he kicks the dog too hard, and the dog passes away. And so he kind of realizes what he's done. He picks the dog up, and the shot is just him sort of walking up the street. And what David Ogg says, he says somehow you feel sorry for Peter Mullan, for his character. You don't find you're sorry that the poor wee dog's passed away, but you still have sympathy for him, because the performance that he gives, he's immediately in the first few minutes of Tyrannosaur, much like this film, that he is a troubled guy. We find out later on in Tyrannosaur the character's a little similar in that he had lost his wife as well, I think, if I remember right, much like Thomas in The Vanishing. But you feel sorry for him, even though he's just done this horrible thing to this poor dog. You're like, well, he's so fucked up. There's something. He's a troubled guy, and there's not many actors who, in the midst of a performance, could kick a dog to death and still have your sympathy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Especially in the first moments of the film, he's hardly said a word in character, and he's done this horrendous thing. And he's a bit like this, and he doesn't say a great deal in those first scenes when they're leaving, but we see a lot of his point of view. You know what I mean? He looks over to James saying goodbye to his kids. He looks over to Donald. He says a word or two to a couple other guys. Speaks to Kenny, the captain of the boat that's going to take them out. But he doesn't have to do a lot. That's the thing with Mullan. You know what I mean? He doesn't need to do very much or say much. He just sort of really embodies the characters that he's playing. Yeah.
Yeah. As you say, as soon as you see him on screen for the first time, you kind of know, like, okay, this is a hardened guy who's been through a lot. And the first initial interactions that he has, when they get there, just little facial expressions he gives to Donald when Donald's sitting with his feet up on the table smoking. Yeah. He's like, and the marking of the bottle and things. And then he's obviously the one in charge. He's been there, but it says 25 years. He's been in a lighthouse keeper. And again, the scene where they find the dead, the body at the bottom of the ravine, and they're saying they're going to set Donald down. And he's like, well, why me? And he says, well, because one, you're the lightest, and two, James is more important than you. And it's, it's so matter of fact in terms of the delivery. But I think the scene where it really holds its own is when the two guys, and it's never established if they're like Norwegian, Icelandic, when the other two guys come on to the island looking for their friend or the missing rowing boat with effectively the gold. The tension in that scene when they're speaking to Mullan. And you're kind of thinking, right, did he do the right thing in terms of basically admitting that
they'd seen it?
I mean, still lying, but that we found the body, we found the box, we've sent it back to the mainland. Yeah. Or should he have just said, nah, never saw anything. Sorry, not a thing. It was stormy, like that. Yeah. Nothing's come in.
Yeah, yeah.
Did he fuck up there effectively?
I think so.
But that tension in that scene is just incredible, and it goes, to the remarkability of Mullan, but also the other actor that's in the scene. And I don't know if it's Soren Malling.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah.
As Locke. Yeah. The two of them just the tension and intensity in that scene is just remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, and again, it's a normal guy that you say who's been working in the same place for 25 years, the same routine for 25 years, and he is trying to be evasive. He's probably never had to tell such an important lie before. You know what I mean? So he's got to think on his feet. He's got to try and convince these guys. He wants to be believable, but he also wants those guys to move on as quickly as possible, not have the other two lighthouse keepers come down and join the conversation. And again, Mullan, you're right. The character has essentially fucked it in his conversation with the two Icelandic Scandinavian guys, but you buy it completely, because if he had been, in less delicate hands, this could have been we're expected to believe that this normal guy can suddenly turn into this master of deception in order to keep this gold that they've come across, But with Mullan, he understands that, well, this guy he's never found a fucking chest of gold before. He's an honest working man that's been keeping a lighthouse for all these years. How is he gonna act in a situation like this when he's put in the spot by people who, if they've got this box of gold, it's never really explained where the gold has come from, how these guys had it in the first place, but it's sort of suggested that they're less than savoury characters. And then, of course, the way they behave later on, when they attack the lighthouse keepers, it kind of confirms it. But in that scene that you're describing with Mullan, we don't really know an awful lot about these guys. We assume that they're probably criminal to some extent, but you're sort of you're making that assumption with Thomas because of how fucking amazing Mullan is. Do you know what I mean? You're with him. You're sort of you're seeing it through his eyes, and it's completely believable.
And it's Thomas that comes up with the plan, really, because Donald and Kenny.
They open the chest, don't they?
Not Kenny, sorry.
James.
Donald and James. I mean, well, Thomas has opened the chest beforehand and seen what's in it, and then comes through and they've opened the chest. And they're talking about, where do you want to go first, Paris or New York? Yeah. They're spending all the money. And Thomas effectively, has to go outside, calm down, comes back in, and then he lays out this whole plan of, we will do this 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off for a year. Yeah. And then, and he's it's almost like Goodfellas when they do the heist, and, Robert, Jimmy is when the guy comes in with the wife with the fur coat.
Bring it back.
Cadillac.
Bring it back.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Bring it back.
It's exactly the way he's describing, in terms of you can't go spending that money because people will know. So you have to just sit on it for a year and then we disappear. Yeah. And he has got this plan kind of laid down of what they're going to do. So very intelligent guy in terms of thinking ahead and knowing what's going to happen, because they're going to know something's up if they just disappear all of a sudden. And he's got this sorted until these guys show up. Yeah. And then he kind of fucks it by saying that they had it.
We do exactly as I say. We get rid of the body. We weight it down, take it to the end of the jetty, and we toss it into the sea. When Kenny gets back, we each take a share of the gold and we hide it in our cases. And when we get back, nothing. We go home, we carry on. 6 weeks later, we come back. We finish our shift. 6 weeks after that, the same again. Nothing for at least a year. I'll find a buyer in Edinburgh, somebody we can trust. And he'll turn the gold into cash. Agreed. Now we don't talk about this. And you tell no one, and I mean absolutely no one. And you do exactly as I say. One more spoken, hinted or suggested about this, and we are dead.
His plan seems to be to tell as few lies as possible all the way through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they were here. But so the lie is that the body and the chest have been taken back to the mainland, and then later on, after all the carnage, and when James accidentally kills the wee boy and stuff, and again he's like, we tell the truth, they were here, but they came to ask for navigational charts, we gave them the charts, they went away again. You know what I mean? He's just like, how can we get through this without spinning too outlandish a tale? We don't want to tell too many lies, or else we're going to get caught out, whatever. And again, it feels quite real. If you came across something like that, and you came across like a box full of money, and you wanted to keep it, how would you? But obviously, you knew that you weren't allowed to keep it. How would you sort of try and style it out? You don't want people to know. Unfortunately, maybe if Colleen, the Gran from Grand Theft Auto, had watched this movie, she might not have been caught quite as soon. She'd sat in her $1.5 million for a few years. But again, it's like, well, what would you do if you in that situation? And the thing is, like, everything that they do and everything that Thomas, well, not everything they do, but everything that Thomas says they should do, it feels kind of like the right thing to do. Like when he was talking about what you just described, and he's talking about, we'll lie low for a year. I could feel myself going, yeah. It sounds smart. It sounds fucking smart.
Great idea.
Let the dust settle on this, and then blah blah blah. And then he knows that he thinks he knows a guy in Edinburgh that can turn the gold into cash and all this kind of thing. And I'm like, yep. My faith would well and truly be with Thomas at that stage. Had I been one of the other lighthouse keepers.
They made a big thing. There was a scene about the mercury, the quicksilver, leaking out of the instruments, and they managed to put that back in. And then there was another scene like 10 minutes later when you saw James sitting upstairs with a little pool of mercury beside him. And I thought, okay, is that going to drive them all mental? And there's going to be some sort of Lord of the Flies type issue going on here. But they never really come back to that, because Donald and James do go a bit mental. I mean, James more so, but it's understandable for the reasons they do, because Donald kills the first guy with the rock, which is going to emotionally scar you. And Thomas and James are very sympathetic towards him and say, there's nothing else you could have done. And effectively it was him or him. It was one of them going to die. And I think I would be in the same boat. I'd kind of be a little bit emotionally scarred, but you would come to terms with, well, it was either him or me. He was drowning me. I had to do it. But then when he pops the other guy's eyes out with the rope, you're like, okay, Donald's fucked up now because he's just killed two people. Yeah. That's gonna really fuck you up. But the thing that fucks James up, he seems fine with having killed that other guy, but when he kills the young boy, that sends him into emotional turmoil. Now, do you think there was anything to do with the mercury in that? Did that add to it, or is because otherwise, what is the point of having that kind of mercury subplot part in the film? I
think we're expected to acknowledge that is part of it. You know what I mean? Like in that Mark Kermode review as well, he talks a lot about the mercury, because it is set up in that scene when they've got the protective clothing on and stuff, and James says, there's been many a lighthouse keeper that's been driven mad by the quicksilver. Yeah. So then when we see him later on, and then so I sort of took it to be, well, he's killed this young boy who reminds him of his own son. So he's that, maybe the exposure to the mercury has sort of exacerbated how he reacted to it. But then all three of them, but in the sort of in the second half of the second act and the third act, arguably Thomas isn't behaving the way that we would have expected him to behave when we first meet him at the beginning of the film. You know, he's gone from this veteran lighthouse keeper to somebody who's plotting to keep this gold and deal with these criminals, effectively, that want to get their gold back and stuff. You know what I mean? And even when the wee boy's killed, he's very much, like, it was dark, you couldn't see what you're doing. You know, he's sort of playing it down where, you know, the fact of the matter is this young kid has died, you know, through misadventure, by mistake, or whatever else. And, you know, it's like, well, is that the way that the Thomas that we met at the beginning of the film would have behaved? Not so sure. So is it, you know, has this a bit of exposure to the mercury? You know, and the thing is, the way that Donald attacks the guy who has stabbed Thomas in the leg, you know, like, you're in a kitchen, the first thing he picks up is a bit of rope and ties it around his head. And I know they talk about that earlier on in the film, and then Thomas is talking about how pirates used to get information out of people. But, you know, you're in a kitchen. You sure the first thing you'd have picked up would have been a bloody kitchen knife or something and plunged him with it. You wouldn't have, like, gone to the trouble of tying it around his head whilst Thomas holds the guy's arms and stuff. Bear in mind that Thomas has been stabbed maybe in the artery in his leg. Do you know what I mean? He just sort of pulls the knife out. I remember saying to Macy last night, I don't know if I'd be pulling that knife out. You know?
Yeah, I thought that too, exactly, when he pulled it out. I was like, is that the best idea?
Yeah, I might have left that in. So, yeah, I mean that is an exciting moment in the film, when our three heroes effectively overcome these bastards and stuff. But I did think, I'm not sure, when Donald tied the rope around his head, I'm not sure that would have been my go-to in the kitchen, to sort of fend these guys off. It
provided a nice callback, though, to the scene with the crabs, in terms of the...
Well, this is it.
Thomas had explained it all very well. So, and I thought it gave a good thing. So, I mean, this whole film takes place over, 5 days, do we think?
Yeah, something like that.
On that island? Yeah. Because it's basically the first night is the storm, and then it's, you know, the next day they find a body, probably the day after the guys come on. That night is the big fight, and then over the next 2 days, because I guess James is hiding in the chapel for a day or so.
Yeah.
Before he comes out. So yeah, like maybe 5 days in total this all takes place.
Have you ever seen a chapel that's designed for one person at a time?
No.
Neither.
No. I haven't. But on a small island, I guess maybe it makes sense to have that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so, you know, because... And then the other thing is, the thing that sort of gives them away, and I had to sort of figure it out with Macy, but it's the broken radio we came to the conclusion. Yeah. That's what gives them away, because they say that they radioed it in. Thomas tells them their radio call sign, and that's how the baddies, if you like, realise that they're lying, because they radio them, and they can't hear them, so they know the radio is broken, but they can hear them, and that's how they work out that Thomas has lied to them, that the box must still be in the island somewhere and stuff. But I didn't think it. I don't know. Maybe. Well, I guess I worked it out, so I suppose it was explained quite well, but. You know, but I was a bit like,
I thought that was quite clear.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't drunk when I watched this. Crucially, I'd only had like a beer at that point, so I don't know. I felt in the moment that I had to really think about it. You know.
So there's a lot of supernatural theories as to what actually happened on the island, and people think maybe something. But the main theory is that. And they've kind of mixed up the characters, I think, here in terms of Donald and James. So it was the character of Donald, well, not the character, the actual Donald. Yeah. He was apparently a big drinker and a bit of a head case. And I think him and James's character got kind of a bit amalgamated in this film. So they think that Donald might have got pissed and then killed the other two and then ended up killing himself. Or the other theory is that just this giant wave just came up and swept them all off to sea, because there was a big storm and a lot of the island was ravaged and battered. So I think the other theory is that they just literally all got swept off to sea.
Well, that seems like the most realistic theory, because apparently Donald, to your point, was, you know, he wasn't like a new sort of greenhorn. He was a veteran lighthouse keeper.
Yeah.
And what they apparently when the relief came and they found that there was one set of oilskins. So one of the theories, which sounds quite plausible, is that Donald, in his capacity as a veteran lighthouse keeper, was in the lighthouse tending the light while the other two were dealing with something on the actual island itself. He saw the waves coming and recognised them as being like a big waves and damaging waves, and just ran out to warn the other guys who were preoccupied in what they were doing. So he hadn't put his oilskins on because of the emergency, and the waves have taken them both off, which sounds reasonable. It sounds as reasonable as any theory. I mean, there's other ones about sea serpents and all sorts, and I think people just love a good mystery. You know what I mean? They love it. It's like the sort of Mary Celeste. It's sort of similar kind of thing. They found that the kitchen had been cleaned up and there was dishes drying on the rack, but the beds weren't made, and blah blah blah. And I thought, well, would three guys, would they make their beds every day back in, they got a lot of work to do. They're probably knackered at the end of the day. They're sleeping in shifts. They just fall into bed. Are they really going to go to the trouble of making their beds every day when they got so many jobs to do? And they're guys, like back in those days, probably not quite as domesticated as like 21st century metrosexuals are.
There's a scene where they have a little sing-song where Thomas plays the violin and James gives a song, so we get to see Gerard Butler. So his second appearance on the Culture Swally and his second song. Yeah. But I would still say We Love Cowden Beef is my favourite.
There's a shopping centre underneath. I mean, honestly, that will never not be funny. I can't imagine a time when that won't make me laugh. Him like doing a cappella Cowden Beef song in the radio studio. Fucking hilarious.
I love the library, it's a civic community. Got a magic town hall, and what about the shopping mall? You can park underneath, that's the wonder of Cowden Beef. Whoa, you can park underneath, that's the wonder of Cowden Beef.
I thought overall this film, I love a film where it's something like claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And there's, trapped in tension.
Like
and
small
that's
cast
what I think what really, that's the kind of thing that appeals to me. The kind of tension, stripped back. You don't need to show a huge amount of set pieces or special effects. I mean, I thought the special effects in terms of the waves coming up and stuff were great. And it made it such more an engaging film that it was just so stripped back, so this claustrophobic element of just kind of, they're trapped, you don't know what's going to happen, there's nothing they can do. And when they know the guys are on the island, they're like, oh fuck, one of them's here. Yeah. And they run off and you're like, shit, what's going to happen here? It's wonderful because there's nowhere to run to.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a play, without all the amazing establishing shots of Ely Moor and the lighthouse itself, and to your point, this sort of angry sea sort of banging about around it. You could imagine this on the stage as a play almost, essentially a three-hander. Three guys. It's sort of claustrophobic. They're sharing a sort of dormitory. They're cooking for each other. They're trying to find entertainment. For the off times. A sing song, a dram, or whatever else. Before all this intrigue and everything begins. I think the first act is maybe the most powerful of the three because. Yeah. I get it. They've tried to make a compelling psychological sort of drama out of, a sort of possible, however improbable kind of theory of what happened to these real life characters. But to your point, the first sort of 30 minutes when we see them leaving, James saying goodbye to his family, Donald, all he's got is this little bag because that's all he's got because we find out that he's later on that he's a bastard. And everything that meant back at the turn of the 20th century, he's sort of shunned by the community and everything, for no fault of his own. They can't help how he was born, but he's got to sort of try and live with it. And then Thomas, this kind of brooding veteran lighthouse keeper that we realise later on is dealing with all this trauma, having lost his wife and his twins. Yeah, really, really powerful. And you can imagine that being played on the stage, Yeah. Maybe not so much the later parts of the film, but certainly the early parts.
I wasn't shocked, but as we spoke about earlier, when you see James giving that kind of look sideways look as Thomas is going into the pantry. When he gives that look to Duncan, locks Thomas in the pantry, and then once Thomas breaks out, he's killed Duncan. You know, you were shocked because you thought they were kind of good buddies, but obviously things had taken a bit of a turn. And then Thomas and James effectively escape with all the gold, but then James can't
live with it.
Take what he's done.
Yeah.
And did you think, you know, he puts himself over the side of the boat and tries to drown himself. When he comes back up, I genuinely thought he was going to drag Thomas overboard with him.
Yeah, me too. Definitely. Yeah. I definitely thought that. Yeah.
And I think that's the way it's implied. But no, Thomas just holds him under the water, kills him, and, you know, effectively Thomas gets to fuck off with all the gold and none of the regret. I mean, the only person he's really killed was James, who wanted to kill himself anyway. Yeah. Thomas didn't kill anyone else. Duncan killed 2 of the guys. James killed the other one.
Yeah.
You know, Thomas's kind of assisted suicide is probably the best he's going to suffer from.
Well, yeah, but then again, you know, like with Mullan, you know, to your point, it's quite an ambiguous ending. But you know, does he sail off and sort of disappear with the gold and make the best of it? But you know, because, and again, like with a different actor, you could be forgiven for thinking that. But with Mullan, although the film ends with him sort of standing on the deck of the boat, you know, like the guilt of everything that he has gone through is there on his. It sort of sits on his shoulders when we see him in that shot on the deck of the boat. You know, he's you know, this young boy has lost his life. These criminals, however deserved they are not, have died. James, who he knows the best, he's help die because James can't live with it. And you know, he's not like a young guy. He's not supposed to be a young guy in this. He's supposed to be like a sort of veteran, older fella with like a 25-year career behind him, and just like a normal guy that happens to be a lighthouse keeper. And it's, you know, when you see him stood there, you know, I'm sort of thinking, well, I don't think it's going to end well for Thomas. You know, whether he throws himself over the side after the credits have rolled, or whether later on he drinks himself to death or something. But again, with Mullan, all those eventualities are possibilities. You know, do you know what I mean? Just like the way that he stood on the deck of the boat and his body language and the way he's looking off camera and stuff like that, you just think, well, who knows what's going to happen to this guy? But you do get the feeling that it's not going to end well for him, you know?
I could see him maybe getting somewhere, selling the gold, sending half the money to James's family, and then drinking himself to death.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, for sure.
Because he's a haunted individual and a lot going on. But yeah, I think he's a good, honest person as well. So I think he would definitely give them their share of the money, if you know what I mean.
Well, he's traumatized before any of this happened on the island. He's traumatized by the loss of his wife and the loss of his twins. You know, and he's dealing with that to the point where even when people are trying to be sympathetic towards him and show support, like, he can't hear it. You know, like when Kenny, Gary Lewis's character, tries to give him some platitudes, and he's like, just drive the fucking boat, Kenny. You know, he can't accept sympathy, so he's clearly not been able to deal with the loss that he's experienced. And then he's almost immediately thrown into this scenario with the other 2 guys and the golds and the Scandinavian guys and murder and fucking all this stuff. You know, and again, I can't think of many actors that could make you believe all of those, that they were going through all those things. You know what I mean?
When we see that after the first night, effectively after the storm, and he's had a drink, and Donald gets up and looks out the window, and Thomas is literally howling to the moon and screaming, and James comes in and hugs him and calms him down. So exactly as you say, you know, he's a really troubled individual, and which makes it all the more shocking, you know, the way Tim and James kind of, not turn, but the way things work out.
Yeah, for sure. So I've devised a game.
Oh, Jesus.
So I'm going to give you 2 famous Scottish people, and I'm going to ask you to imagine them as lighthouse keepers. And I want you to tell me if you think the couples will be lighthouse family or shitehouse family.
Okay. Like, in terms of how they would get on together? How they would operate a lighthouse?
How they would get on in isolation together for 6 weeks at a time.
Okay.
Okay, so my first pairing is Aberdeen legendary footballer, raconteur, and amazing moustache cultivator Willie Miller, and Pete Waterman's nemesis Michelle McManus.
Okay, so Willie Miller, I've met a couple of times. He's a nice guy. He's always been nice when I've met him. He likes a vodka and cranberry. He's obviously an Aberdeen legend. Michelle McManus obviously had a number one hit.
Likes cheese.
A larger lady, but she seems quite fun. Willie Miller's quite fun as well. I bet he'd be up for it. I'm going to go Lighthouse family.
Lighthouse, okay. You think you don't think Michelle would get on Willie's nerves a bit after a while?
Yeah, she'll get in his tits, but then he'll...
But he's a professional guy. He's just dealing with all walks of life.
He's a professional.
Yeah.
He's a broadcaster. He's used to it. She's a broadcaster as well. They're used to it. I'm going Lighthouse family.
Okay. All right. Next one then. So the next one is actually a trio. So I'm sort of subverting my own rules. So we've got late 70s and early 80s, not just Scottish, but the UK entertainment legends, the Crankies, Jeanette and Ian Tuch. Mm-hmm. And Partick Thistle and Scotland legendary goalkeeper Alan Ruff. How do you think that's going to shake out?
Well, the Crankies are well known for their swinging and for light entertainment. Alan Ruff, I don't think he's probably seen some action for a while, so I think he would be up for a little bit of Jeanette in her school uniform. I'm going Lighthouse family.
You think so? Like Ian sitting in the corner, iPhone out, smoking a ciggy, filming, while Alan and Jeanette get down to it. Lighthouse family, okay.
That's getting uploaded to OnlyFans later on.
Cranky's OnlyFans, can you imagine? Can you imagine if that was what they had on there? Oh my God. 15 quid a month to watch the Crankies fucking with a bowl of car keys.
Do you know something? I would probably pay that out of interest. Like, not out of... Not for any
erotic reasons,
sexual gratification, just out of entertainment and banter.
Just to find out if it's true or not, really. It's good to know, does this actually exist? All right, number 3 then. So sometimes known as Big Tam, but the rest of the world know him as Sean Connery. And journeywoman newsreader Jackie Bird.
Oh, Shitehouse family. Oh no.
Big Tam's going to slap her about a bit.
Big Tam would be walking about there in his pants. He'd be slapping her about if dinner wasn't on the table. He'd be pinging golf balls off the top of the lighthouse. Jackie'd be saying, there's no need for that. You're
going to help me with this mercury.
She'd be nipping his heat. The mercury would get to them as a Shitehouse family, just waiting to happen.
Okay. Okay, right. Number 4 then. Swally legend and wearer of fisherman jumpers, James Cosmo, and Scottish Asian little pocket rocket, Marley Sue.
Oh no, that's a Lighthouse family waiting to happen. In fact, I'd love to see a sitcom with that. That's wonderful. Cosmo, I cannot believe getting upset with anyone ever. He's just such a cuddly, lovely guy.
Endless,
Marley Sue's so lovely as well.
Right? Endless patience.
Yeah, no, that is a Lighthouse family waiting to happen. That's just like a wonderful, beautiful kind of coming together. No, definitely Lighthouse family.
I can see Marley keen to learn the ropes, get involved, she wants to do some of the more labour-intensive work. James, sort of classic gentleman. No. You just sit there, Marley. He's out there in the storm with oilskins on, like tying knots and cranes. He's polishing the fucking lamp up there, and Marley's just like feels a bit bad. I feel like I should be doing more.
Yeah, she wants to help, but he won't let her because he's too much of a gentleman.
He's a good guy. Okay, last one, number 5. John Barrowman, pretend sort of Scottish, potential, sort of card marks a little bit, and Kevin Guthrie.
So, shall we go on to the Swally Awards, Greg? What have we got on anything else on The Vanishing?
No, I don't think so. I would say that it's, we've obviously ruined it for anybody who's not seen it, but watch The Vanishing if you haven't already. Great movie, great performances from Swindells, Butler and Mullan. Okay, so our Swally Awards then. So the first one that we would usually do would be the Bobby the Barman Award for the best pub, but there's no pub in this one. There's zero pub.
No. It's just the drinks cabinet, which doesn't qualify, but
there's no beers in there.
Yeah. So yeah,
I don't think I could be away for 6 weeks and only have drams. I need a few cans. Do you know what I mean? For like my time off.
Okay.
I need a few cans. Okay, like number 2 then, the James Cosmo Award for being in everything Scottish. So who did you go for here?
We often debate this whenever they come up. Because it's one of the two, isn't it? It's Peter Mullan or Gary Lewis. And I'm going to go with Mullan because with his appearance in this puts Mullan tied at the top of the Swally tally with Alex Norton.
Wow.
And I thought Norton's lead was unassailable.
Yeah.
But with this, they are tied at the top with 13 appearances each.
I mean, I went for Gary Lewis because I think in a lot of ways Lewis has become the kind of new Cosmo. You know, like Cosmo through the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, whenever there was anything Scottish, and it didn't have to be a Scottish production. You know, like famously, he turns up in Highlander, turns up in Braveheart. He's even in The Outlaw King, the Chris Pine, Robert the Bruce movie on Netflix, which we may or may not do in the Swally in a few months' time. I think Lewis seems, and I made a note because I know that Peter Mullan and Gary Lewis are pals. You know, they're good mates. And I thought myself, has Mullan done a good turn for his pal here? Got him a wee gig?
Yeah, he has.
A day's work?
100% he has. 100% he has. He's got him just a little role, 2 days work, 3 days work max, but he's got him this little role. 100% he's done him a solid. And you can tell they're mates, just the chemistry. But yeah, the 100% he's done him a solid. Okay, you know what? Give it to Gary Lewis.
And
I'm happy.
That's why I want to be pals with Peter Mullan. You know what I mean?
Who doesn't want to be pals with Peter Mullan? I bet he's great to be pals with.
Yeah, I bet he is. I bet he's a good guy. I bet he's a really. I bet when you're having a pint and you're talking to him, he's fully engaged. You know what I mean? He's interested. He's asking about yourself. He wants to know how you're getting on. Not seen you for ages. He wants to know you're doing.
Yeah.
Right, number 3 then, the Jake McQuillan Your Tease Out Award. Few options here.
There's quite a lot of options. I went with Donald using the rope on the guy like a crab was my kind of, because it just seemed like the end of the fight, that ended it. Your tease out, you cunt, bang.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of options. My first choice was Donald smashing the guy with a rock, but there's lots. I mean, what did you go for?
Well, I went with Donald smashing the guy with a rock, just because the actor who plays Donald's assailant in that first scene when they come across the broken lifeboat and what they assume to be a dead body, when Donald manages to get his hand on the rock, although I did notice that Donald's hand went past a lot of rocks which should have done just as well. It's the one that his hands alighted on eventually. When he tans him with it, the guy looks, he always clearly wasn't expecting it, stunned and falls down dead. So I went with that one. But we could have had when James comes and the big fella thinks that he's done James in after but James comes back with a bit of wood and tans him and then chokes him to death. That was wonderful. Yeah,
that was in my top 3 as well. That was a belter, definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think you'd want to see it, to be honest, but crucially, no Ewan McGregor awards for nudity in this because there's no nudity. Is there? There's no.
Thank goodness. No, there's not.
To see that, no. So we'll skip quickly on then to the Francis Begbie Award for gratuitous swearing. So for this one, I went with Donald telling Thomas to fuck off, you old cunt, which was a bit unexpected when the language had been fairly sort of mosaic up until that point, But sorry, prosaic, not mosaic.
I would agree with you, yeah. No, that was a good one. I went with when they're about to winch Donald down to get the dead body, and I think Thomas says to him, "You're good," and Donald says, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to be." And
All good?
Well, I guess it's going to fucking have to be.
Watch the language.
But make sure you hold that tight.
Hey, I got you, don't worry.
I like that. Maybe laugh.
Yeah. He does have some good lines, Donald, for sure.
Yeah.
So next one then, archetypal Scottish moment.
I'll get the whiskey and the Dundee cake.
I had written down Dundee cake as well. I'd also written beating Norway. It was pretty good at beating them.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Oh, I like that. Don't get too cocky. We're playing them again
No, I know.
next month or the month after. So
I know.
don't get too cocky. But yeah, that's a good one right now. Yeah, I like that.
We only need 2 points out of 3 games. That's all we need. Touch wood.
We don't even need that. I think if Norway and Georgia draw on Wednesday.
I think at this stage,
but
that's all we need.
we'll see.
Pending results. And then the last one, and we sort of touched on it a wee bit earlier on, but the Sean Connery Award. Who won the movie for you?
Yeah, I did say this earlier that I was kind of tied between Gerard Butler and Peter Mullan, but I think I was probably swayed by the fact that it's just a really good Gerard Butler performance. I mean, Peter Mullan wins this film, without a doubt.
Oh, and
he's incredible. I mean, Peter Mullan wins. I think. In fact, I'm going to go back through the archives and see if there's been a film we've covered that Peter Mullan's been in that he hasn't won.
Don't think so.
There would have been actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Trainspotting.
Oh, yeah, of course.
For example, would have been.
Yeah, but I think Wynn's playing one of the leads. I don't think.
Yeah, there's nothing compares to Peter Mullan. His face expressions. I read an online review that basically said, when he scrunches his face and you see his wrinkles, it's just like a roadmap of his life.
Yeah,
and
it's really good.
You just feel every part of everywhere he's been, and he can just give a look. And there's a good few scenes that, I think one you mentioned earlier, he just gives a look and it evokes so much energy and passion and conveys so much, exactly what he's thinking. And my God, has there ever been anyone better, like Scottish actor? Peter Mullan, without a doubt.
He seems particularly adept at playing characters that are in pain. You know what I mean? Like Thomas is in pain. Joe, in My Name is Joe, is in pain, although he's doing everything he can to distract himself from it. You're busy with the football, busy with this, busy with that. But it's just he's great at it. But equally, when you see him being interviewed and he's just being Peter Mullan, he just seems like the fucking warmest, nicest guy. Oh. You know what I mean? But
happiest, go lucky, happy to chat to everyone, making jokes. It's when we covered him on Young Adam, he's joking about, I'm the only one that doesn't have to have sex in this film.
Yeah, exactly.
Just such a lovely guy, so warm-hearted, just seems so chipper and so nice. And a guy I'd love to go to a pint with. Peter, if you ever listen to this, I'd love to go for a pint with you.
I'd love to. Yeah, honestly. I was just absolutely astonishing actor. So that is The Vanishing wrapped up. Now, it occurred to me, so my last 3 choices have all had a nautical theme, but it wasn't intentional, right? But obviously The Vanishing, set on a lighthouse. Before that, I chose Young Adam, set on a barge on the Clyde Canal. And before that, I chose For Those in Peril, which is also set in a seaside town and about a sinking ship. For the next time I pick, I'll try and move away from the sea, but it's your turn next time, Nikki. So what are we going to be watching for the next episode of The Swally?
Well, Greg, you mentioned something earlier on the podcast today, and your wish is my command. So we are going to go back to episode 8 of the Culture Swally and revisit something we've looked at before. We're going to go back to 1992 and we're going back to Mary Hill and we're going to catch up with Detective Chief Inspector Jim Taggart as we look at the Series 7 investigation. Probably one of the most mentioned things on the Culture Swally.
Yeah, for sure.
Nest of Vipers.
Brilliant.
And it is available on STV Player and also UK Now TV if you want to watch it to do homework for that. So on the next episode of Swally, we're going to look at Taggart, Nest of Vipers.
Brilliant. Cool. I look forward to that.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us on cultureswally@gmail.com. Get in touch with any news stories that you've seen or anything you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or just get in touch and say hello. You can follow us on Insta at CultureSwallyPod, or you can follow us on X at SwallyPod. And Greg, we have a wonderful new website as well.
Not new. We've had it for a year. But
not new. You're
but
right.
A bit neglected website. You can. Which I need to do some work on. I feel like I say that all the time. But you can find us at cultureswally.com. You can find links to all the episodes and some articles and features about Scottish pop culture. And you can get in touch with us through the website as well.
Of course. Right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Greg. Much appreciated. Are you off to go and, I don't know.
Tie some nautical knots.
Yeah, you have to go and get your knot board sorted.
I'm off well, it's Sunday, so I'm off to cook a lovely Sunday roast for my family. Not that they'll appreciate it, because like 2/4 are teenagers and the other one is my wife. But I'm looking forward to it anyway.
Well, very well. Okay, well, enjoy. And yeah, I'll see you next time.
Until next time.
A distance from your hand. Go and get a fiddle, Thomas, eh? Let's have a song. No. I'll get whiskey. Don't be short with those measures.
I'll be a judge of that. And the Dundee cake?
Whoa! How did you know about my Dundee cake?